welcome to this episode of Lifts. We're here live in Newport Beach. We have the sunshine and the ocean behind us, and we have Mo, and we have a special guest that's come all the way down to Newport. We've got John joining us as well today. Thanks for coming down for this week's podcast.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's been an interesting day of travel. You visited a site before this podcast. I missed that tour because my flight was delayed coming in. And yeah, it's nice to see the sunset. I'm used to seeing, it's interesting. I ran early this morning. I saw the sunrise in DC, and now I'm seeing the sunset here in California. That's a wonderful thing. But John, welcome to Lifts this week. For those of you who might not know John Ford, I want to walk through a quick intro of John. John, and I found this out today, by the way, was a founder at Virtual Active. That's a product we've integrated many times. I did not know that. So that was a fun fact. You then went on to be, Virtual Active was acquired by NetPulse. You then became CEO of NetPulse, and then NetPulse in 2018 was acquired by EGYM. And then you moved into the role of Chief Product Officer. And today you are Chief Product Officer of one of the most talked about brands in the fitness industry. So congratulations on all of your success.
Thank you. It's been a fun ride.
Yeah, no, and we're glad to have you on. There's been a lot happening in the fitness industry the last couple of weeks. I mean, we just recorded an episode last week, which I think is coming out on Sunday, which is typically when we release episodes. We want to kick things off here with Planet Fitness. One of the biggest news stories that came out this past week was Planet Fitness changed its price. And it's a big deal because they've had the same price for 26 years.
26 years.
26 years,
wow.
Almost 3 decades. In fact, I remember the first Planet Fitness in New Jersey, because that's where I spent a lot of my time, was growing up in the New Jersey, New York area. And their claim to fame was $10 a month. And it's something that everybody could afford. And then they had the Black Card. And I remember joining, I'd bring my friend, significant other, anytime. And you don't have to have a fixed person. So I could take, you, Matthew, one day. I could take John another time. And then as their network grew, I was traveling for work. When I was working at Sharp Electronics, I would travel all over the country. And if there was a Planet Fitness with my Black Card, I could use it. So this is an incredible value.
Was it always the same price everywhere?
Same price everywhere. So it's $10 a month, but that was only giving you access to one gym.
Yeah, not for the Black Card.
Not for the Black Card. And then the Black Card was $20 a month, and you could use any gym, and you could bring someone. But since then, I haven't been a member of Planet Fitness for maybe about 15 or 20 years at this point. But now they have recovery stations. There's a lot of other things that they've offered. And I just remember, going back then, this is like the early 2000s, I kind of took Planet Fitness seriously, and I also kind of didn't, because I remember they didn't have the heavy weights. They had this thing called the lunk alarm, right? And, I worked out at some hardcore gyms at first in New Jersey. New Jersey had a strong, hardcore gym culture. I would go to the Y a couple of times, then there was Planet Fitness. It really changed what a gym was meant to be. And I thought that was really good. It brought more people into it. They had pizzas once a week. They might still be doing pizzas once a week. I'm not really sure.
Bagels?
They do bagels now.
Or they did, yeah.
They did, okay. And so they were kind of like being this welcoming facility for anybody. But $10 a month is what they became known for, right? So as you had, especially in that New York market, you had premium gyms. You had, even New York Sports Club was about $40 a month, $50 a month, maybe a little bit more. You had Crunch Fitness, which is a little bit more. You had then Equinox, which is a premium product. And then they kept on growing. So now there are 2,600 Planet Fitness gyms. The executive team that was there for the longest time did not want to change it. You couldn't even bring it up. I remember going to the headquarters a couple of years ago. That is the one thing you do not touch. The $10 a month is something you do not touch. But here they are now changing $10 to $15 a month for new members. So
for
new members. So yeah, would love to get your thoughts. I mean, Matthew, what do you think? Have you been to Planet Fitness recently?
Not recently. I have been to a Planet Fitness, and I guess it's a sign of the times. How long can you keep running that type of model? We all know how everything's going up, and I suppose it's things are going to have to adjust. And what it makes me think is this the first change in this low cost model now. And you mentioned Planet Fitness and having these premium memberships, and there's a number of other groups in that sector that I think are looking at other ways to create different spaces, different rooms, different ways to add value so that they can push it up. Because my guess is a lot of them, particularly some of the smaller to medium size, my guess is they must be having a fairly tough time to remain relatively profitable. So, is this a new trend? And is the low cost entry point going to become more of a mid-market offering? I don't know.
Yeah, and Planet Fitness is also unique in that they are public. Right? So I just looked at the market cap before this recording. It was about $5.8 billion. And market economics, unit economics are changing. Investors might have been okay at almost using growth at all costs, like the Amazon model, right? We're not going to be profitable, but that's okay because we're going to grow. We're going to acquire customers. But now that's changing. There's more pressure towards profitability. There's more pressure towards performance. And if you look at $10 a month, when they first announced it 26 years ago to today, if you mark that for inflation and adjusted it for 2024 numbers, that would be $20 a month. So even though they're going to raise it to $15 a month, it's still not kept up with the rate of inflation. But cost of everything has gone up. I mean, John, you work for a gym manufacturer. The cost of making a product has gone up over the last 26 years.
Yeah, especially over the last few years.
Right, especially with innovation,
the pandemic,
digital.
the supply chain crisis, suddenly we had a lot of additional costs baked into our products, and we didn't necessarily go back to the previous norm following the pandemic. And then, of course, all the inflationary effects that we've seen over the last years, of course, affect us as well.
So do you think that now that Planet Fitness has raised their prices, it might cause some of the other high-value, low-price gyms to think about raising their prices as well?
I think many of their competitors had left the $10 price point long ago.
Yeah.
Right. My feeling about Planet Fitness and this increase is I'm really surprised it took this long. As you said, I mean, the price, when you keep your price the same and everything else is inflating around you, including your cost of doing business, you're effectively reducing your price every year. And that's what they've been doing for the last 26 years. I mean, I wonder what they paid a front desk staff person 26 years ago.
That's right.
It's probably a lot lower than today. Right?
What was minimum wage? It was about I think $5.25 an hour at that time.
Maybe something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm not surprised they did it. I think it's the right move. I'm surprised they didn't do it earlier.
And you also have had a chance to work with some other high value, low price gyms in this that would compete with Planet Fitness. The cost of investing in equipment has also gone up dramatically, and the technology goes into that equipment has also increased quite a bit. When you think about where this takes the gym industry, they've raised their prices, but that's not enough, right? They have to reinvest in their product and innovate in their product. What do you think the next 10 years for gyms would look like? Yeah,
so for HVLPs, these budget gym chains especially, I think that the last 10 to 15 years has been a lot about land grabbing, and the next 10 to 15 years is going to be a lot about how to manage your yield, right? Extract the most revenue from your customer base that you can. And obviously a way to do that is differentiate with product and with the product within the gyms. One thing I'm a strong believer of is that the successful ways to differentiate your gym product are the things that you do within the walls of the gym. Over the years, there have been a lot of efforts, a lot of different angles on trying to do app-based gym product differentiation. To my knowledge, none of them really ever worked out all that well. And I think the evidence for that is no one's really doing that much anymore, right? So clearly it wasn't working. But lots of people tried it, and lots of people spent a lot of money on it. And so I think the next 10 years is going to be about how can we create differentiated experiences within the gym. A lot of the chains are already doing this. I mean, you mentioned, Mo, the recovery zones. Yeah. You know, Planet Fitness for a long time has had the massage chairs and these other amenities that they can put behind.
If you have the black card.
Exactly. That they can put
yeah.
behind this higher yield product, right? And that's the new model, I think. And so, obviously having higher membership prices, maybe it'll allow them to invest a bit more in updating their product.
And I wonder, how much do you think, the cost of acquisition and the way that you acquire customers has also changed? So Planet Fitness, as an example, for the longest time, I think they will continue to do that, has sponsored New York City's Times Square, the big ball drop, right? And you see the Planet Fitness balloons and the squiggly men thing and all that.
Yeah.
And it's been a great tool to get awareness. But the way you acquire customers, that fight for attention has also changed, right? Now customers are fragmented, cost of acquisition has gone up. So you want to solve for the acquisition problem, you want to solve for the retention problem. You don't want to lose members either. Do you think the gym of the future is going to invest more in technology, invest more in the product, invest more in the experience so that they have to acquire less and they can keep more?
Yeah, I think you can do both, right? The investments that you make in technology that improve the experience in your gym, even if they are only targeted at your top tier members, for a lot of these chains, they're converting 50 to 70% of their members to top tier currently.
50 to 70.
50 to 70 in this range
About
is,
that.
normal.
I think Planet's about 50%
Yeah.
black card.
Yep. Maybe higher, actually.
Okay.
But so this is going to have an impact on the entire customer base, even if not everyone is taking up the premium experience. But yes, I do think as it becomes more and more competitive, as these brands continue to grow, continue to move into the same neighborhoods and fight for members, of course they're going to have to invest in differentiation, invest in retention, maybe more so than in the past when you could just open up a box and people would come.
How do you see technology integrating? We had a brief chat earlier about this, and you mentioned just now about it should happen within the walls of a gym, but there's an increase in new technology that people are becoming very comfortable using and is forming part of their lives that isn't necessarily connected to the gym. My thought is there's got to become a day where whether you're using a Peloton, which I know Mo likes to use quite a lot, as long as his tone on and his ever on, where you've got that experience, where you've got some wearables that we rely on quite a lot, and then I suppose with what you guys are doing from within the four walls, like where do you see that going? Because there's got to be some point where you've not got all of these independent things going on in your experience. Have you? I'm sure you guys must have thought of that. Where could it end up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, digital, even if it can be leveraged outside the gym, like in the gym's app or something like this of course can be part of the system, right, that you're monetizing, part of the product that you're differentiating for higher tier members. I think it can be part of the story. What I've seen historically is trying to make that the entire story, which in my mind, or my view, never really worked out.
And is that a lot because, when you look at change management, you look at gyms are evolving. We talked about Gold's Gym here, and gyms are constantly needing to evolve right now. In Planet Fitness's case, there was a change in executives, right? And we don't know if that's why the former CEO was pushed out. It might have been this or other reasons. I know that there was a culture of not wanting to change the $10 price point. They believed in what they believed, and that's the way they were going to do business, and that was it. Now there is a new CEO coming on starting in June. There is an updated board, and you see this price change coming in. When you're looking at gym, the thing you call the Gym 2.0 or the gym of the future, how important is it for gyms to look at their boards, their management, and their team as they're evolving? Because the same team that got you to where you are today might not be the same team that can get you into the next phase.
Yeah, I mean, certainly. I think gyms today, I would say that a lot of the organizations that I've been working with recently have upskilled their management teams, their boards. There's a lot of PE money coming into the space over the last 5 to 10 years. And the PE groups tend to do that. They bring in professional management. They professionalize things. So I'm speaking a lot more often these days to CTOs and people with technology experience from other industries, and that wasn't always the case in the past.
Yeah.
And this definitely makes sense because they're trying to optimize these businesses. They're trying to maximize revenue. You need people who have the right experience, who know how to transform a business, use technology, all the things that are necessary these days for businesses, right?
And do you think it's important to bring people from the outside of the industry coming in, or can you find that talent within the industry itself?
I think, there's talent in the industry, but talent is always a war. It's certainly if you open up to outside, you have a lot more options, right? Mm-hmm. So I think it could be a bit of both. I've definitely seen, on the flip side, I've seen some pretty clear mistakes from industry outsiders coming in and trying to apply concepts that may just not really fit. Right. It's a nuanced industry that we're operating in. So.
The other thing, we talked about Brian O'Rourke before we came in here, and I hope his ears were burning, but I interviewed him, and he also said an interesting thing.
He's also going to come on in a couple of weeks.
Yeah, he is, yeah. He said an interesting thing, which is some companies, although they need to make a change and there's a willingness, some of them, it's very difficult for that change to happen. You gave an example of the, should Planet Fitness have done it sooner? And maybe, and I don't know about this, I'll never run a business this size, but do you get so big that even simple and obvious changes become so difficult for your infrastructure to adapt? But 24 Hour is one that comes to mind. Massive success, grew and just became so big that to readjust to any model seemed to be quite a challenge, and maybe continues to be. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, well, Planet Fitness, I think that why did they take so long to make this change? Why were they effectively lowering their price every year for 26 years? I think a big part of it is just plain old, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, right? I mean, they were exploding. They're one of the most dominant gym chains, probably the most dominant that's ever existed. Yeah. And so I'm not surprised that, there were some folks internally who maybe became a bit religious about this $10 price point. If you don't have a team of analysts to question your assumptions and everything that you're doing is working magically well, keep doing it, right? But, PE comes in, their job is driving growth and optimizing growth. And so they're going to, of course, question everything and maybe do some analysis on the back of that.
Is it that also, do you think there's a point now we've realized we've got to an industry, and even with their growth, they're pretty significant player, and now for them it's probably international if they want to keep getting that growth. But do you think it's kind of a stage where, okay, now, there's also signs where there's a requirement for evolution? It's like, how long can you continue to play the same cards, and do you then need to bring someone in there that's going to bring evolution? And if so, how do you provide value to people that are no longer satisfied with the fact that it's $10.99 or $15.99?
Well, something which we've always said is we're going after the same 30%. I mean, whatever number you look at, I mean, the 30% of the active or the adult population that is heavily or high intent invested in fitness. So all these people are just moving around. If it's, we talked about at-home fitness before this podcast, we're talking about gyms. We're all going after the same pie. How do you increase that pie? I think you have two options to do that. In the US, how do you get after the other 70% of the inactive people? Or if you're a brand, you go international. And that's a good move into the next piece here, which is Whoop. Is now going to be growing into Middle East. We just had come back from Riyadh a couple of months ago. Whoop's going to be investing heavily in the Middle East, I think in Riyadh specifically. They've signed a deal with Cristiano Ronaldo, who also came up with his own app. Anytime Fitness is...
Is that integrating then? Is Whoop and his app integrating in any way, do you know? Or?
I don't think so yet. I do not think so.
SweatWorks, then, don't they?
They might need some of our services to do that. We have integrated Whoop before. But Whoop, along with Anytime, are really, and I think Pure Gym mentioned, so all these brands are going into the Middle East. But when you think about what works internationally is very different than what has worked here in the US. I don't know if Planet Fitness is going to the Middle East. I don't think we've seen Planet Fitness and take their model over there. But wearables is a key part. And as you're thinking about the member journey, whether it's Whoop, we both have Auras. I don't know, John, do you have a wearable?
I'm putting on the spot. Watch, not wearing it.
You have an Apple Watch, but not wearing it. Okay, but you definitely have embraced the wearable family.
And I've tried Whoop. I've tried most.
You've tried them all, I'm sure. Yeah. And thinking about like how do we incorporate that as part of the journey? You have this new element that if you think about gyms of 20 let's pick 26 years ago, right? We're talking about Planet Fitness with this price point. They never had that element. All they knew is when you were going to come in, the equipment, they couldn't have any feedback from the equipment. Today, you are walking data sources. You're walking into the gym. You are a pile of big data, and gyms have to know what to do with it. And in a lot of ways, customers are saying, I will exchange my data for you if you can give me value. I'm not going to give it to you for anything, but if I will give you my data if you could help me lead a better life.
Do you think, and this is to both of you, do you think the consumer really fully understands that yet? Or because certainly when you look at it on the other side, you do see them as big data centers and the value in this data. Do you think the consumer really realizes the power that they have? And do you think there'll be a time where that will shift and they'll realize, hey, look, if you got my data, I want to be paid for it as a contributor to the development of this. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think consumers understand some of that. I think they're certainly starting to, and I think privacy is driving a lot of that. Think about the last decade, right? You've had these leaks coming out from Facebook, these breaches coming out from Facebook. You've had Google serving you ads. There've been a lot of questions around the iOS update with iOS 14 and the ad limitations that they've placed on it. And what that's done is that it's surfaced up the concern around data for consumers, for average consumers that aren't in technology. So the consumers don't understand and say, okay, well, I've been using Facebook for years for free. Well, I wonder how they pay for that. I've been using Google for free. I'm not paying for Google search. I wonder how they're paying for that. Apple, right? So why is Apple saying it's the most secure device? What are the things that they're putting in there? So Apple's taking the stand of saying, hey, we're going to be the most secure device. And there's some truth to that, and some of it is not. So I think consumers understand that, I'm exchanging some of my privacy and some of my rights to get a product. It's a matter of how much are they willing to give. And in some cases, they might say, you know what? I don't want the ads. I'd rather pay for that. And if I'm going to pay for it, I don't want you to use my data for any retargeting or any remarketing. In addition to that, you've had a couple of really key legislations that have come in. GDPR in Europe and CCPA here in California, which has been largely, I think, embraced by most of the country. Customers are aware now of that. I don't know, John, if you have any thoughts around it.
Yeah, I mean, I think there is more awareness of privacy issues for sure. It's still my opinion that most users don't care.
Yeah.
I think users
take my data.
Users have some types of data where they do care. My bank account number, my address and phone number, because I don't want to get spammed.
Yeah.
Things like this, right? But I think the main concerns of digital product users, technology product users, are probably mostly around just not wanting to get harassed with ads. I don't think the typical user really cares. Like, oh no, this company knows how many sets I did today, right?
All my sleep data. I mean, as long as they're getting
what are they going to do with my sleep data? I don't know. Hopefully they make their product better, right?
Some of the data though, the more I learn from people, even in the marketing side, I felt I knew a lot, but I feel as though I'm also scratching the surface with what actually they are really doing and what they're following and tracking. And maybe some of that is you just think, oh, okay, they've got some basic information, but it does go pretty deep. And when you add things like AI into it, I kind of can't help sensing if somebody really explained that to you, you may then start thinking, hey, hang on a minute, I'm going to be a little bit more careful about what I'm getting, in terms of fair exchange.
Sure.
With certain companies.
Yeah. Look, I think what's happening with GDPR and that level of protection coming now to the rest of the world is a great thing. Obviously, I think all companies should take data privacy seriously. I think that most users still just aren't looking at it that deeply, and maybe at some point, someone will explain it to them, and they will have concerns. I can tell you, if you explain it to me personally, I'm going to speak for myself. As long as you're using the data to learn and to make your product better, or if it's an ad-driven product to target ads, and I've agreed to that, I don't care personally, and I think most people are in my boat.
Yeah, that's the thing. I remember about 2 years ago, we were talking with a few companies in the connected fitness space, and even at gyms, to say, instead of paying a subscription, could you serve up ads? It never took off. I'm not sure why that didn't take off, but can we serve up ads? And would someone say, for you to view an ad before a class and then maybe a short ad after class that is targeted and specific for you, you don't pay the $40 a month in membership? I think that's a decent value, right? I'd watch an ad for a few seconds to get that value, but it never kind of, like, the flywheel never took off. Maybe, John, we have to revisit that idea.
Yeah, I think maybe I'd be interested in seeing how that revenue model would work, the economics there, right? You'd have to have some pretty hefty CPMs to, I think, incentivize people. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah.
It'd be interesting to also know the value of, like, my guess is, to someone like a Facebook or a TikTok or something like that, the value of this data that they are collecting is huge in terms of repurposing it. And obviously there's a lot of investment you have to make to be able to give that. But, I just wonder that, what the value is and how that's weighted against the people that are contributing and the value they get from it. And I don't think it'll be too long before that happens. The reason I asked, I was speaking to someone at a show that was kind of comparing individuals to influencers and being able to track some of this, and you actually getting, like, tokens and rewards over time for doing stuff and visiting places, and you can choose what you give, and you're actually making money from some of this indirectly. And my view, that could be the tide could turn one day.
It could. And sticking with the gym of the future theme and talking about privacy and data, there is an intersection. We talk about this a lot here on this podcast between fitness and healthcare, and that's certainly happening. There are companies who are investing heavily in our categories. There's one here called Dr. B, and this is, again, there's been a few press releases around it. I'm going to pick one here with Beachbody, which just came out this past week. On Thursday, Beachbody announced a strategic partnership with Dr. B, who is a telehealth provider that offers $15 online consultations for common conditions in all 50 states. The partnership will help qualify patients to use their pre-tax dollars, HSA or FSA, to pay for Beachbody's platform of health and fitness solutions. They've launched this. They first kicked this off at SoulCycle early in the year. We've actually had many conversations with them. They are a wonderful team. The founder was a co-founder at ZocDoc, so he's got a lot of experience in telehealth. But the idea behind this is fitness companies, if they can get this letter of medical need, could use, in this case, Beachbody subscriptions. It could be a SoulCycle class. It could be another subscription. But they can use their FSA and HSA dollars. And for those of you who are listening on this podcast who are international, who are like, what is this term? Well, in the US, we have privatized healthcare, and you get these, and there's a pre-tax incentive called health savings accounts or flexible savings accounts. And these are pre-tax dollars that you could use for your copay, for prescriptions and other things. And with the Affordable Care Act, as of a few years ago, you could now use this for wellness goods too. You can use this for supplements, for athletic greens, for our Oura rings, things like that. Dr. B has kind of built this model now where with this consult, you could potentially use it for your subscription services as well. So gyms are slowly starting to get integrated with healthcare. But as that happens, the gym of the future, think about Gym 2.0, having the right people and team in place to understand, well, how can I use this as a way to get new customers in or to retain my existing customers, I think could be pretty powerful.
Yeah, agree. I think our industry's working hard right now trying to get this new bill passed, or I guess it's not new. It's been in the works for years.
The FIT Act, yes.
Yeah, it's been in the works for years. And I think one of the goals of this act is to not require a doctor to use your HSA or FSA, right? So maybe that'll get easier in the future.
Yeah, and the FIT Act, and this actually happened last week in DC, and I hosted a few people at my house. In fact, one of your executives Dana was over. And yeah, it is what they're trying to do, led by the Health and Fitness Association, formerly called IRSA, is to expand the use of FSA, HSA funds on other things like your gym membership, right? And not necessarily have the need to do that. It'd be more of an automatic process.
That's right.
Do you have your athletic greens in your FSA, HSA?
I don't, and I didn't realize I could do that as well. I think I met this gentleman with so another couple of people are going to have on our podcast, Justin and Austin. I think they introduced me to the gentleman who started this. We were in the Blue Bottle Cafe chatting, and I remember the name. So I think I've met him or one of the people from the organizations, and he was kind of explaining it to me. But I didn't realize I could get things like that through it. And maybe we need to get him on and explain how that works.
we certainly can. I think, look, what AI I think did for mainstream in 2022 is what GLP-1 kind of did the same for our industry, right? So all of a sudden you have all these people who now understand that, hey, I can go get GLP-1 prescribed to me. I can lose the weight quickly. It's what's driving people towards strength training, because you're losing 40% of your lean muscle, of your weight being lean muscle with GLP-1 compared to 20% in normal weight loss. But I think gyms have to be thinking, the gym of the future needs to be thinking about how do we incorporate, the modern consumer, wearables, data, personalization, right, into the member experience. And I think that has to happen more quickly, and it's not something you could just sit on the sidelines and, expect. Like, this is not a trend. This is not a trend.
Yeah, you have to build experiences, and those experiences should provide data, right?
That's right.
Can be leveraged by doctors and healthcare. The data connection needs to be made between the industry, and there are a couple of companies working on this problem as well. So I think things are on the right track. I think it's a long road.
Yes.
But yeah, we're seeing more gyms adding technology. We're seeing more data capture, more integrations with healthcare. So we're getting there.
You're one of the first companies of I'll call them the new breed of fitness equipment companies that are, I guess, to use the word, connected. So your machines are different to the standard analog machines, where in terms of how they work and the information and the control of how the strength is delivered to the user, and then also the data that you're collecting, and then you're building this sort of ecosystem around it. What are your thoughts, without really upsetting anybody, but what are your thoughts from a manufacturer's perspective? Are you at the beginning of the 2.0 version of the fitness industry, where it's come from weight plates and dumbbells and fixed machines, and that there will become these new players, and you're one of those that will start to be building this type of system and these types of products from scratch? Last week we chatted about Speed, another new player, consolidation of a few different brands, where they've got the rowing product now, they've got a strength product. If you were to have to make any kind of prediction, really, do you see that there will be some changes from what we would have seen with some of the main players in IRSA just a few years ago?
Yeah, I think that people are always going to want to use free weights and functional tools, and they should, right? So I think a lot is going to stay the same about gyms, but I think that what we see is that we believe one of the main competitive advantages of a gym is in the experiences that they can offer, and in their ability to assess. I think these are two really key things, because the types of tools that can get in a gym are commercial grade, and typically they just cost more and have a lot more variety than I would have, for example, in my home gym. So this gives me a lot of options, a lot of different experiences that I can have. It allows me to mix things up, try different things, etc. And then they also have tools for assessment that I just wouldn't typically have in my home, that provide better assessment than just a wearable or the connected scale that I have in my house. These are commercial grade assessment tools. Oftentimes, even with, for example, a PT participating in the assessment. And so I think these two things together can be really powerful, because we know that the future and especially with AI, is heavy on personalization. And it's really hard to have good personalization without good assessment, right? So on the experience side is not going to be good unless it's personalized. And the personalized experience is not going to exist if there's not good assessment. And so we really think about these two pillars, the great experience and the great assessment. And I think that when you look at the new products that we've launched or are in the process of launching, EGYM Genius, for example, we're not trying to build a digital version of every product in the gym. In fact, Genius is really about how do we take a robust digital assessment that understands how strong are you across every major muscle group, what's your cardio fitness, what's your VO2 max, these sorts of things. How do we learn these things about you through a quality assessment and then instruct you on how to use everything in the gym, including all the non-digital things. This is the sort of tool that we're excited to bring to the market. And yeah, so long answer to your question, but essentially I think a lot will stay the same, and it can all be enhanced with a layer of technology and experience.
Well, John, I think that's all the time we have for today. Matthew, this is kind of my first time really sitting in the driver's seat and hosting.
You're doing a great job.
Everything okay? I was fumbling the articles a little bit, but trying to keep us moving. So with that, I want to come up with our final thoughts and final takeaways. So Matthew, I'll have you go first. Any key takeaways?
Any key? Now you've put me right on the spot.
That's what you do to me. That's what you do to me. So it's my turn now.
Well, I've said it before about change, and you're being involved in the equipment manufacturing side. We've certainly, since the pandemic, it's been a huge amount of change, and thinking about making smart moves about exactly where to go next in a way that it's going to have a certain amount of longevity is difficult, particularly when you're making sort of fairly big bets based on the size of your company on the future, and you can't really make too many of those. So I think that's the first thing. The second thing from today in particular is interesting to see. We've talked about Planet Fitness and others. Certainly. Some changes that we're going to see there, and I think that's also going to have an impact on what people like Planet Fitness are now going to be looking for, because they're probably going to be looking for different things to provide value to their clients over just purely a price point. And I think the third thing, which is what John's just mentioned, is this, we're probably getting back to a fitness industry where we're actually going to be delivering a high class, high quality product, where we're really focusing on the quality of the assessment, really down to me personally, and exactly what I need and why I need it, and then having a number of different solutions that are actually sort of hitting the nail on the head in terms of how to solve some of those problems. That was 3 things. I was a little bit greedy there, but
that's okay. I think I'm really aligned in terms of my final thoughts for this week. I would say that the gym of the future, the first thing we have to consider is that the consumer is different today. The pandemic pulled forward a lot of evolution and advancements in consumer behavior and consumer thinking. That means that the role of the gym has changed. Look, we talk about return to work has not really happened. A lot of people are working at home, which means that the gym is now the third space. And being the third space means that your members are going to expect more services, more things out of the gym, right? You might have met your friends, your mate, your culture, is used to revolve around your workplace. That has now transitioned to the gym. So with Planet Fitness and others raising their prices, and you see it at the low end of the scale, but on the high end, Equinox has done that, Lifetime Fitness has done that. So we've seen that happen with other gyms, is needed because they have to make the investments in people, technology, and infrastructure to make it that third space for their members. And the other trend is that every member is spending more on health and wellness than they were before. So my big takeaway here is, if you are a gym, do not be afraid to raise your prices. Understand the value that you bring, and most importantly, understand the role that you play today is different than what it was 5 years ago.
John.
Yeah, I would double down on Mo's comments here. I think that when gyms are ready to invest in their experience, a takeaway from my side, again, is just to invest on what's going on within the walls. These are the things that have already been proven, as we discussed in the budget segment, around clubs successfully differentiating different tiers of product and then upselling, converting a very high percentage of their customer base to higher dollar memberships. This is already a proven model. This is where the whole budget segment is headed and has been for years. And all of the tools that work to do that are the things that people are experiencing inside the gym, because they're paying to be a member of the gym and they want to participate in what's going on inside, right? So these are the experiences that matter. And I'm looking forward to, because I agree with you, Mo, I think there is going to be a lot more investment in the experience in the future, and I'm looking forward to seeing that from the industry.
Well, I think that's it. We're going to go and have a nice steak dinner to finish off our fun day here. So thanks everyone for listening. If you've got any comments or feedback, go to our lifts page on LinkedIn, and if you've got any value, please share it with one or two other people. The more people that you can share it to, the more we can continue to do these fun episodes with people like John.
Yeah,
thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys.